What's up guys, my name is Scarlett. Welcome back to my channel where I discuss comic books, movies, TV shows, games, and all sorts of pop culture media. Today we'll be talking about Spider-Man Freshman Year, the animated series coming to Disney+. Before I start the video, if you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you have, like the video and comment your thoughts down below. I'd love to discuss with you guys in the comments below, and if you show any support, thank you. So Spider-Man Freshman Year, what should we expect from it? And what is it? The show definitely has flew under the radar since announcement and doesn't seem to be their top priority in the MCU, but will probably be what we are going to get to satisfy our Spider-Man needs for the MCU until Spider-Man 4 is out. Spider-Man Freshman Year is basically going to be an animated series that will showcase MCU Spider-Man's origin story following his early days as Spider-Man. Fans have been curious of the origins of MCU Spider-Man because they never showed it since his debut in Captain America's Civil War. So now what will Spider-Man Freshman Year be about? It should be about how Tom's Peter got bit by the spider and him figuring out his powers, as well as creating his homemade suit in Homecoming and how he came up with his webbing. So usually Peter would get the spider bite in Oscorp or a research facility like the Raimi and Webb movies, but here he's in the MCU, so anything's possible. That's because the MCU is controversially known for changing things about Spider-Man and other characters as well, but mainly Spider-Man is the most controversial character that they have changed this far. With that being said, it is definitely possible that they could change his origin story up somehow, some way. Another topic that the show should cover is how Uncle Ben passed away in this universe. It's weird though, because the only time Uncle Ben has been mentioned was actually when Tobey and Andrew's Peters mentioned him in No Way Home. Otherwise, he hasn't been mentioned at all. And judging by Peter's reaction to them mentioning Uncle Ben leads me to believe that maybe Uncle Ben didn't exist, but then again in Far From Home we did see Peter have a suitcase with Uncle Ben's initials on it. Or the other possibility is that maybe Uncle Ben didn't have as significant as a role in Peter's life as Aunt May did in this universe. Now, who will be voicing Peter / Spider-Man? I would love for it to be Tom Holland, obviously, and despite Tom Holland actually breaking into the voice acting side of Hollywood, he has stated that he wants to take a break from Spider-Man stuff, so it seems unlikely that he will be voicing Spider-Man. Who will most likely be voicing Spider-Man is the same person that voiced Spider-Man in the What If series, Hudson Thames. Since Tom Holland seems to be taking a break, I wouldn't be surprised to see Hudson Thames reprising his role to voice Spider-Man in this show. As for the rest of the cast, it's really up in the air. We might get a mix of people from the movies and new cast as well. Now next up, what villains can we expect to see in Spider-Man Freshman Year? Now this is the tricky part because we actually have no clue or hint as to who the villain could be. It's common for Spider-Man to have an evil counterpart to beat up and throw in jail, but for this show we don't know who that will be, and that's because this is a prequel show. Since the show is a prequel, that means that we won't be seeing him face off against any S tier or A tier villains like Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Venom. This is because if he did, it wouldn't match up with Peter's inexperience in Captain America Civil War, and also as well it wouldn't make sense story-wise for No Way Home, because if they use any of these villains it would be a plot hole since Peter in No Way Home, this is his first time with all of these villains. It's been rumored that apparently he will be fighting the Lizard and Dr. Connors will be Peter's science teacher. This wouldn't be a bad idea, but there's a major plot hole in it obviously, and that problem is that it wouldn't make any sense because in No Way Home, Peter seemed to have no idea who the Lizard or Dr. Connors was, and had no clue how to cure him, and this goes for why we cannot have him go up against Sandman, Lizard, or Electro as well. So Lizard is off the table. I'm gonna give a few of my predictions of who Spider-Man might be facing off against. Starting off with the Enforcers. The Enforcers were in Spectacular Spider-Man and they did it pretty well, so I can see it working good here as well, and they could have a mob connection to Kingpin typically, so now that the Kingpin is in the MCU along with Daredevil, this has a chance of happening. The Enforcers check all the boxes, especially when it comes to not being as powerful as the Vulture, so that we can keep Spider-Man's story in the MCU consistent. My next choice would be Tombstone. Tombstone would be a perfect villain for Spider-Man to fight. In Spectacular Spider-Man it was proven that Tombstone could be expanded upon and could be a difficult adversary for Spider-Man as well. Tombstone is a character that realistically you could do anything with because he doesn't have any specific character traits about him that you need to have. He's just a guy made out of rock and power hungry. So now next up, Black Cat. She isn't necessarily a supervillain, she's more of an anti-hero I would say, because she does steal and do heists, but she has a good heart deep down, very deep down, and she sometimes helps Spider-Man. But she would definitely be a great fight for Spider-Man to go toe-to-toe with. This this could work so that we already know her origin and we could get her in live action in the new Spider-Man MCU trilogy possibly, especially since we have the symbiote in the MCU, and now whenever Spider-Man gets the symbiote, Black Cat usually does show up to stroke Peter's ego and get him to embrace the dark side. Any of these choices I believe would be great setting up Peter Parker to become a semi-confident Spider-Man for Civil War. So now who will be the supporting cast alongside Peter Parker? I'm sure we should expect characters like Aunt May, MJ, Ned, Liz maybe, Flash Thompson, Betty Brant, and Mr. Harrington as well. Possible cameos are Adrian Toomes setting up for Spider-Man Homecoming, and possibly Uncle Ben as well. When will this show be coming out? No one knows that either, but we do have Disney's D23 coming up in September, which is like basically Disney's CinemaCon. Speaking of CinemaCon, if you haven't checked out my video on CinemaCon and the biggest announcements that happened this year, go check that out. But if anything, we should expect to hear something about this show at Disney's D23, if not by the end of the year, hopefully. As for a release date, if I had to guess, I'd definitely say late 2023 at the earliest, or even that of early 2024, because there still isn't a teaser trailer or an announcement for a release date yet. But with that being said, we recently did get sort of an update, nothing too major, but this photo has been released on social media, and basically what this is a couple of studio set gifts that someone got, and this basically means that the production of the show has finished. Usually when people get studio gifts from a project they're working on, this usually means that production has been finished already or is almost finished, so we might be seeing this show on our mobile devices sooner than we anticipated. So that's everything about Spider-Man freshman year so far. I'm excited for this show to come out and can't wait to see what they have in store for us. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and your thoughts down below. I would like to discuss with you guys in the comments. Don't forget to turn the notifications on by clicking the bell to be notified when a new video comes out. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, until next time.